Wonderful. Wonderful.
If the late Mr. Hilton Cubitt fired the bullet which pierced the window frame, he must have been aiming at someone who was standing either inside or just outside the window. Oh, thank you, Inspector.
Which means that the bullet which killed Mr. Cubitt could have been fired by some...
Inspector, your thoughts and mine agree entirely. This is the cartridge case of the bullet which killed Mr. Hilton Cubitt.
Holmes? If 3 shots were fired, why did Mrs. King and Saunders only hear 2 shots?
They were telling the truth, but lied without realizing it.
I'm not sure that I follow you.
You remember what Mrs. King said? I was awoken by this terrible bang, an explosion. It is the only word. And then, a minute later, there was another bang, but not so loud. The first bang was 2 shots, fired almost simultaneously. One from the window, which killed Hilton Cubitt, and one from Hilton Cubitt, which missed and went into the window frame.
And the 3rd shot?
The saddest of all, Mrs. Cubitt self-administered in her despair. Now, do any of you know of an inn in the neighborhood called Elridge's?
There's a farmer of that name. Lives some miles off, in the direction of Millbrook.
Is it a lonely farm?
Very lonely, sir.
Then it is just possible that the news of what happened here last night has not reached them.
Maybe not, sir.
Excellent. Walker. I want you to take this note to a Mr. Abe Slaney of Elridge's farm. Do not say that the note is from me. And make no mention of what happened here last night. Now, you understand?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Walker. I am expecting a visitor in answer to my note. Now, Saunders. He will ask for Mrs. Cubitt. I want you to show him into this room. I want this house to look quite normal, and you must not give anything away of what has happened.
Very good, sir.
Now, I suggest you return to your duties. And Dr. Carthew, I suggest you return to your patient. Oh, Mrs. King. Your mistress is quite innocent.
But how did you break the code?
Well, you see, the rules which guide us in deciphering all secret writing depend on the fact that E is the most common letter in the English language. So you see, we were very fortunate that Mrs. Cubitt's name was Elsie, and that it featured in the second message, which gave us not only the E, but the L, the S, and the I. Now, next, it seemed likely to us that 2 of the messages were appeals of some sort to Mrs. Cubitt. By adding the T and the G, the message reads, "At Eldridge's, come Elsie."
Well, if this Abe Slaney is indeed the murderer, we must make an immediate move to arrest him.
Well, calm yourself, Inspector. I expect him here any moment.
Yeah, but why should Slaney come here?
Because I have written and asked him.
But won't his suspicions be roused? Will he not try to escape?
Saunders.
Excuse me, sir. There's a gentleman approaching the house.
Do you think he'd be armed?
He's a fool if he's not.
Good day, sir.
Is Mrs. Cubitt at home?
I'll inquire, sir, if you'll step inside. What name shall I say?
Tell her it's an old friend. She's expecting me.
If you'll wait in the library a moment.
Well, gentlemen, it looks like you've got the drop on me, but what the hell is going on?
Abe Slaney, I believe.
What if I am, and who are you anyway?
My name would mean nothing to you, though I suspect that of Wilson Hargreave of the Chicago Police Department will. I see that it does. Mr. Slaney, you should know that Mrs. Elsie Cubitt is very seriously ill.
I don't believe you. This is some cheap trick. Mrs. Elsie Cubitt wrote me a note just an hour ago. A note that only I can understand.
What one man can invent, another can discover. I'm here, Abe Slaney, at Eldridge's. Come, Elsie. And your last note to her, Elsie, prepare to meet thy God. And this?
You wrote that note? But you were lying about Elsie.
Slaney, when you shot and killed Hilton Cubitt, Elsie Cubitt, in her despair, attempted to kill herself and is now at death's door.
No.
No! I gotta see her! I gotta see her! I love her, for God's sake! Elsie! I love you, Elsie! Elsie! Elsie!
I believe that she fled from America to avoid you. Because you followed her and made her life a misery, she now lies under grave suspicion of murdering the husband she loved. The least you can do is to clear her of that.
I guess the very best case I can make for myself now is to tell you the absolute naked truth.
It is my duty to warn you that it will be used against you.
I guess you probably know that Elsie's father's the most powerful man in Chicago.
One of the most powerful criminal men in Chicago.
It was he who invented the dancing men. We used it as a code in the old days. I've known Elsie since she was a child. She was promised to me. I may have threatened her, but I wouldn't have touched a hair on her pretty head. But you're right. She hated the whole Chicago business. That's why she ran away to Europe. It was only after her marriage to this Englishman that I was able to find out where she was. I wrote to her, but I got no answer.
She burned your letter. She was happy in her new life in Derbyshire.
I came here to England to take her home. I sent her notes. I did everything I could to coax Elsie away. Then my temper got the better of me and I began to threaten her. But yesterday, she sent me a letter. She said she would come down when her husband was asleep and speak to me through the end window. If I would go away afterwards and leave her in peace.
Can I make you see? I've never been so happy as I've been here with him. I love him. Abe, I want to stay, and I'm going to stay.
But what about your friends in Chicago? What about your family?
Friends, do you call them? Killers, robbers, extortionists? Some family.
But you and I were engaged.
I'm sorry, Abe.